So, you guys asked for the full story after my comment blew up on that "what's your biggest I told you so" moment thread. Grab some popcorn because this is going to be a wild ride. I grew up in a small town outside of Philly where my parents owned this little corner store called Wilson's Market. Nothing fancy, just your basic milk, bread, lottery tickets, and those overpriced energy drinks for the construction guys who'd stop by at 6 a.m. My parents worked 7 days a week, opening at 5:30 a.m. and closing at 10 p.m. That store was their whole world. From the time I was 12, my afternoons and weekends belonged to the store. Stocking shelves, running the register, dealing with the occasional shoplifter trying to pocket some Slim Jims. I hated every minute of it. The fluorescent lights gave me headaches, and the same 10 country songs playing on repeat made me want to scream. My parents had this whole plan mapped out for me. Graduate high school, take over more responsibilities at the store, eventually inherit the business and take care of them in their old age. Their retirement plan was literally me working my entire life away in that tiny store so they could relax. But I had different plans. I was good at school, like really good. National, Honor Society debate team captain, perfect SAT math score kind of good. My AP Econ teacher, Mr. Ramirez, kept telling me I had a gift for business strategy. "Emma," he'd say, "you could run circles around half the MBAs I know." When senior year came around, I applied to colleges in secret. Used the ancient desktop computer at the public library since my parents monitored our home internet like hawks. And then it happened. I got a full ride to Wharton. Wharton, you guys, do you have any idea how competitive that is? I was over the moon, bouncing around our kitchen, waving my acceptance letter. My mom just stared at me like I'd grown a second head, and my dad straight up laughed. "College? What for? You already have a job right here," he said, pointing to the store logo on his shirt. I tried explaining about return on investment, opportunity costs, and the lifetime earning potential of a Wharton degree versus a small town market. They responded by calling me ungrateful and too big for my britches. The fights got worse over the next few weeks. One night I came home from my shift to find my mom had accidentally thrown away my acceptance packet. When I broke down crying, my dad told me to cut the dramatics because I was ruining their retirement plan. Then came the ultimatum. 3 weeks before graduation, my dad sat me down at our kitchen table. "It's time to be an adult, Emma. Either you commit to the store and forget this college nonsense, or you're on your own." I thought he was bluffing. He wasn't. The day after graduation, I came home to find my stuff packed in garbage bags on the front porch. The locks had been changed. My mom was peeking through the curtains but wouldn't open the door when I knocked. All she did was slide a note through the mail slot. "You chose this. Don't come crawling back when you fail." I was 17. With $340 in my checking account, 3 garbage bags of clothes, and nowhere to go. My best friend Amber let me crash on her couch for a week before her parents started getting weird about it. Then it was a rotation of friends' houses, sleeping in my beat-up Honda Civic, and finally ending up at the Covenant House shelter in Philly. The shelter had this amazing program for homeless teens pursuing education. They helped me secure emergency financial aid for housing and connected me with a campus job in Wharton's admin office. I was working 30 hours a week while taking a full course load, sleeping maybe 4 hours a night, living off ramen and those free donuts they put out after campus events. But you know what? I thrived. For the first time in my life, I was surrounding myself with people who valued ambition and big ideas. My operations management professor, Dr. Klein, became my mentor. She was this badass woman who'd climbed from stock clerk to VP at Target before going into academia. She saw something in me, that same hunger she'd had. By junior year, I landed this competitive internship at Mart, this regional chain that was basically what you'd get if Target and Whole Foods had a baby. They were known for disrupting the traditional retail space, exactly the kind of company my parents would complain about stealing their customers. On my first day, I walked into orientation and almost walked right back out. The guy leading it was none other than Tyler Jenkins, this total jerk from my hometown who used to come into my parents' store and hit on me while I was trapped behind the counter. But I needed that internship, so I stayed, keeping my head down and working my butt off. 3 weeks in, we had this innovation workshop where interns could pitch ideas to senior management. I'd been working on this concept, combining small-town store personalization with big retail efficiency, basically using data analysis to create neighborhood zones within big stores that would feel like local markets. I knocked that presentation out of the park. Half the executive team was taking notes. The CEO himself, this legend named Richard Dawson, asked for my contact info. Fast forward to graduation. While my classmates were stressing about job hunting, I had an offer letter, with a salary that made me drop my phone when I opened the email. Mart wanted me for their executive development program, with a personal note from Dawson saying, my local retail DNA combined with cutting-edge business acumen was exactly what they needed. Updated. I promise I'll get to the part you're all waiting for, the phone call from my parents, but I need to fill in some gaps first. Life at Value Mart moved fast. My first role was as an assistant regional manager, overseeing 5 stores in the greater Philadelphia area. I was working 80-hour weeks, living out of a suitcase and loving every second of it. My small-town background gave me an edge the Ivy League MBAs in the program didn't have. I actually understood how regular people shop. Remember how my parents' store had that one aisle with random seasonal junk that never moved? That's because they organized it how they thought made sense, not how customers actually browse. At Value Mart, I pioneered this system where we tracked not just what people bought, but how they moved through the store. Game changer. By 25, I was the youngest regional director in company history, managing the entire Northeast division. My ideas about community corners in each store, sections customized to local preferences, had boosted revenue by 23% in previously underperforming locations. Richard Dawson, our CEO, started calling me his secret weapon. During all this, I hadn't spoken to my parents once, not a single text, call, or email. I'd see updates about them and the store through hometown friends on Facebook. Business wasn't great. A combination of the 2008 recession and increased competition from dollar store chains was hitting them hard. Part of me felt guilty, but then I'd remember my stuff in garbage bags on the porch and that feeling would evaporate. Then came the big opportunity. At 27, I was called into a surprise meeting with the board. Richard was retiring and they were restructuring leadership. 3 candidates were being considered for CEO. The CFO who'd been with the company 20 years, the COO who'd previously run a larger chain, and me. The interview process was brutal. 6 rounds over 3 months, including this super awkward dinner, where the current executive team basically tried to get me drunk to see if I'd say something stupid. Pro tip: club soda with lime looks just like a gin and tonic. When the chairman called to offer me the position, I was sitting in a Starbucks in Boston, finishing up a store visit. I literally spit my caramel macchiato all over some poor dude's MacBook. Had to buy him a new one. But honestly, worth it. The announcement made waves in the retail world. 28-year-old wunderkind takes helm at Value Mart was the Bloomberg headline. My face was suddenly on industry magazines. I got invited to speak at conferences. People I'd gone to Wharton with were sliding into my LinkedIn DMs pretending we'd been besties. With my new position came new responsibilities, including overseeing our expansion strategy. Value Mart had been targeting smaller towns, bringing our big store convenience with local store heart approach to communities underserved by major retailers. Our analytics team identified 50 potential locations for the next wave. One morning, my assistant dropped a folder on my desk, the final shortlist of locations. And there it was, right on top, my hometown. I studied the market analysis. The demographics, traffic patterns, and competitive landscape made it an ideal location. The report specifically mentioned limited local competition, primarily from an underperforming independent market with outdated inventory management. They were talking about Wilson's Market, my parents' store. I should have recused myself from the decision. That would have been the professional thing to do. But I didn't. Instead, I personally selected the location for our newest store, a vacant lot just 2 blocks from my parents' market. Close enough to siphon their customers, far enough that it wasn't obvious we were targeting them specifically. Construction began 6 months later. I kept tabs on the project but never visited the site. I couldn't risk being recognized, even though I looked pretty different now. Designer clothes, different hairstyle, the confidence that comes with success. The store was scheduled to open in 3 months when I got the call. It was a Tuesday evening. I was in my corner office reviewing quarterly projections when my assistant buzzed me. "Ms. Wilson, there's a Martin Wilson on line 1, says he's your father." My heart stopped. For a second, I considered not taking it, but curiosity won out. "This is Emma," I answered, keeping my voice neutral. "Emma?" Thank God. His voice sounded older, more fragile than I remembered. "It's Dad." The silence stretched between us. 10 years of silence. "What do you want?" I finally asked. He cleared his throat. "We're in trouble, Em. The store. We're going under. This new supermarket is opening up down the street, and our supplier says our credit isn't good enough anymore. The bank's threatening foreclosure." I leaned back in my chair, looking out at the Manhattan skyline. "I'm sorry to hear that. Business can be tough. Your mother and I, we were wondering if you could help. Just a loan to tide us over. We heard you're doing well in some corporate job in New York." Some corporate job, if only he knew. "Define help," I said. "Well, this new store, Value Mart, I think it's called, they're going to kill us. If you could maybe, I don't know, $50,000 would keep us afloat while we figure things out." I nearly laughed out loud. He had no idea he was talking to the CEO of Value Mart. No idea he was asking his daughter to sabotage her own company. No idea that I was the one who had signed off on the very store location that was threatening their business. Dad, I haven't heard from you in 10 years. You kicked me out, remember? With garbage bags, for going to college. We made mistakes, he admitted, his voice suddenly small. We were scared of losing you. You didn't lose me. You threw me away. I heard my mother's voice in the background asking what I was saying. Then she was on the phone. Emma? Baby, we're desperate here. We're going to lose everything. The store, the house. Your father's health isn't good. His blood pressure. Stop. I cut her off. Just stop. You can't emotionally manipulate me anymore. I'm not that scared 17-year-old girl. We're your parents, she cried. Family helps family. We stopped being family the day you changed the locks, I replied. But I'll tell you what. I have a meeting near your area next week. We can discuss options then. After I hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. This was the revenge scenario I'd daydreamed about for years. I could buy their store for pennies on the dollar. I could tell them exactly who I'd become and watch their faces. I could simply ignore them and let market forces take their natural course. But something unexpected happened in that moment. I realized I didn't want revenge. I wanted closure. So I did something crazy. I cleared my calendar, called my pilot, still not over the fact that I can say my pilot, and flew to Pennsylvania the next morning. I rented a car at the airport, nothing flashy that would draw attention, and drove the familiar route to my hometown. Wilson's Market looked smaller than I remembered. The sign was faded, the parking lot cracked. Through the window, I could see my father at the register, looking older and more tired than the man in my memories. I took a deep breath and walked in. The bell above the door jingled, the same sound from my childhood. My father looked up, confusion crossing his face before recognition dawned. Emma? Hello, Dad. My mother emerged from the back room, freezing when she saw me. You're here? I nodded. We have things to discuss. They led me to the cramped office in the back, the same room where they'd told me college was a waste of time. The irony wasn't lost on me. Before you say anything, I started, there's something you should know. I took out my business card and placed it on the desk between us. My father picked it up, squinting at it without his reading glasses. Emma Wilson, Chief Executive Officer, Value Mart. He looked up, confused. What is this? That's my job. I'm the CEO of Value Mart, the company opening a store 2 blocks from here. Your biggest competitor that you called me about yesterday. Updated. The look on their faces was something I'll never forget. My dad's jaw literally dropped and my mom had to sit down. That's impossible, my dad sputtered. You're too young to be a CEO. I smiled. I was too young to be kicked out too, but here we are. For a solid minute, nobody spoke. The only sound was the humming of the ancient refrigerator units and Mrs. Abernathy at the front of the store, probably shoplifting sweet and low packets like she'd been doing since I was a kid. Finally, my mom found her voice. So you came here to gloat? To rub it in our faces before you put us out of business? I took a deep breath. Actually, no. I came here to offer you a solution. I explained my proposal. Value Mart would buy Wilson's Market at a fair market value, significantly more than they'd get from any other buyer given their financial situation. The store would become a Wilson's Market powered by Value Mart, a pilot for a new concept preserving local stores while giving them the purchasing power and technology of our chain. We'd keep the name, keep the history, I explained. But upgrade the systems, expand the inventory, and make it profitable again. And what about us? My father asked. You'd have options, retire with the buyout money, stay on as consultants. Your choice. My mother's eyes narrowed. Why would you help us after everything? It was the million-dollar question. Why would I help them? I'm not doing it for you, I said honestly. I'm doing it because it's good business, and because I need to close this chapter of my life. We spent the next hour going through the details. They asked tough questions. They may have been struggling, but they weren't stupid. By the time we finished, it was clear this was their best option, maybe their only option. As I was leaving, my dad called after me. Emma, wait. I turned. We were wrong, he said, his voice breaking. About everything, about you. I nodded, but didn't trust myself to speak. We were scared, my mother added. The store was all we knew. We couldn't imagine anything beyond it. I know, I said finally. That was the problem. The acquisition went through 2 weeks later. The local paper ran a story. Hometown success story saves family business. If only they knew the whole truth. The pilot program was a success. Within 6 months, we launched 3 more local market powered by Value Mart stores in similar situations. My parents opted for the consultant roles, though I made sure their primary contact was my VP of community integration, not me. We're not close. We'll never be the Hallmark card version of family, but we're civil. They send me birthday cards now. Last Christmas, I got a text message with an actual emoji from my mom. Baby steps. My revenge fantasy didn't play out how I'd imagined all those nights sleeping in my car or crying in my dorm room. Instead of destroying what they built, I transformed it into something better. Instead of rejecting them completely, I found a way to coexist professionally. Someone asked me in the comments of my original post if I'm happy with how things turned out. The truth is, I'm not happy or sad about my parents. I'm just free. Free from needing their approval. Free from wanting their punishment. Free from that 17-year-old girl's pain. The real victory wasn't becoming CEO or saving their store. It was realizing I don't need to define myself by their decisions anymore, good or bad. Final update. It's been 3 years since I wrote this post, and wow, so much has changed. Some of you have been DMing me asking for updates, so here goes. The local market powered by Value Mart concept exploded. We've converted over 200 struggling family stores across the country. My TED Talk about honoring heritage while embracing innovation went viral in business circles. Forbes did a cover story calling me the small-town savior with big business vision. As for my parents, we've reached a kind of peace. Dad had a minor heart attack last year. He's fine now, and I found myself on the first flight home. Sitting. In that hospital room, we finally had the conversation we should have had 10 years earlier. There were tears, apologies, and a lot of uncomfortable truths. We'll never have the relationship we could have had. Too much water under that bridge. But we found a new normal. They're retired now, living in a nice condo in Florida that, yes, I helped them buy. Not out of obligation, but because I finally realized something. Holding on to anger was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I didn't forgive them for their sake. I did it for mine. And that, more than any corporate success, is what I'm most proud of. Thanks for reading, Reddit. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's building a life so good that the past can't touch you anymore.